Okay, guys, it's 6 on the nose, so in the interest of time, we'll get her going. Let me just rename this. We had a request in the Zoom room already to call out the folks in the room. Obviously, I'm here, Tira Penn. We've got Brian Yacino, Chair of the EDC. John Lenke from Planning and Zoning. Dave Poplawski from Planning and Zoning and the Building Committee. Pat Cheever from Conservation. Sue Wheeler from Conservation. And Matt Polsky from Board of Ed. And Grant, if you want to bring up the.
Bring the chair around.
Oh, and Steve Lewis just came. And for my esteemed colleagues in the room, pizza's on the way, but it'll probably be here in about a half hour. I ordered late. My deepest apologies, but there is soda and cookies in the meantime. So Grant, do you want to kick it off and just point out any updates that you made? And then this is going to be a smaller meeting for a couple of reasons, both practical and practical reasons, both of them. One being that there's an event up at the school that peeled away a bunch of our regular participants, a concert at the middle school, I think. And
Peter Pan.
no, that's the musical, that's later. Right. And also this session, I feel, is at least a little bit reiterative of what we did last time. We're just looking at the updates. So I feel this is a good chance for this tighter group to do more of a deep dive into what we've seen. So enlarge this screen. Let's see. All right, Grant, take it away. Tell us where we are.
Yep. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, you see my screen right now?
We can see it, and can you move it around too? Because I can move it from here. But if you're able to move it with your cursor, then I'll let you do all the moving around.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay.
So for those of you who were here last week, I don't think we really changed too much. We added a lot of more details in the labels, and we started fleshing out the plant lists. This is a draft. It's an ongoing creative process, so we're prepared to, take input from this meeting and make changes. I guess I'll just start up here at the front of the building.
On our screen, possibly because I've enlarged it, we're not seeing everything. Let me change the zoom ratio in the room, see if that helps. There we go. Okay. We're good.
All right. Yeah. And any questions, feel free to interrupt me. I'm just going to kind of move through the property here. So can you see my cursor up here?
Yep.
Yep. So we're looking at native pollinator plantings up here, all in front of the building. We're looking at a farm stand near the front that would have, updates, things that are going on at this, events taking place, even putting out fresh produce from the gardens. We're looking at putting in some kind of permeable pavers or a permeable surface for the driveway to help the water soak in. We're looking at planting a lot more ferns and hostas and other shade-loving plants here in the areas shaded by the building, as well as on the north side of the Small Business Development Center. We're looking at terracing this land right here. This slopes down from a stone wall and arch towards the backyard. We would have mushroom logs in here in the shade garden, a path with some sculptures, trellises, just a beautiful little meditative area to walk through. moving back here, we shrunk the footprint of the rain garden a little bit, and this may actually shrink a little bit more. And this would be collecting water. You can follow these blue arrows to see where we're directing water from the gutters on the building.
Grant,
This north,
since you're talking about the
Mhm.
rain garden, that's one of the identified roles for ECCD for Maura and Dan. Have they given you feedback on that location and size on that rain garden? I know we had a little commentary in the last meeting.
yeah, we're just in conversation with Maura about the design of the rain garden. We're just still getting the footprint down. So the next iteration of the plan should have that squared away. And that's why I say the footprint may be even a little smaller than this.
Can I ask a
So
question now? I'm sorry, or should I
Yeah.
wait? So
That's
I
fine.
see the arrows going to the rain garden coming from what appears to be a blue box with arrows. So what, I'm just unclear what that is.
Yeah, so from the last meeting, we had designated, these two above ground cisterns, and we had someone bring up the idea of having an underground cistern. So if that's the case, this was the location we were looking at, be collecting water from this half of the building, this side. It would fill this underground cistern, so this wouldn't need to be emptied out during the winter. It'd be accessible year round via a pump, and overflow out of the underground cistern under the patio into the rain garden.
So how will we know how much water is going to be overflow? I mean, we just want to make sure the rain garden's going to get enough water. And I guess maybe that's something to hash out later. But I also see the two circles. You're still going to have the above ground cisterns there on the side of the house as well?
Yeah, I think we're open to your all's input. I think part of the thinking was it was nice to have both modalities for just teaching purposes to show what could be done. But it could be that we just go with the above ground. It could be that we just have one above ground for teaching purposes. But ultimately we did begin rainfall, and I think we're looking at around 16,000 gallons per year going off both sides of this building to these cisterns and this. And I think that as far as how much water we're going to be putting in the rain garden, after deciding on a volume of the cistern, it's going to come down to how much of this water are we using in the garden and into the food forest. So I think that's a conversation to continue having.
And Grant, at the last meeting, I know when we were talking about the various water storage methods here, there was that question about the calculations that you were using and including those in your final report on this, with the final iteration of the plan. So I just want to remind you of that.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm happy to include that. That's a pretty simple calculation. We use a 90% catchment rate because there will be a initial diversion. After the first rain, it'll wash off all the sediments into the gutter. So that'll be initial loss of water that we calculate for, and happy to include that in the report. Here in the front side of the building, this small portion of the roof won't be able to be directed to the eastern side of the building. So we're going to dig in a overflow or drainage swale into the yard with some more rain garden type plants in this swale. And then at the rain garden in case of a real intense storm event. We were thinking to put in an overflow swale out of the rain garden that would direct water into all these tree plantings. Any more thoughts or questions on the water plan while we're looking at it?
Randy Blackmer had mentioned looking into capacity to irrigate directly from the French River.
Oh, gee.
Uh,
Just put that down.
Um, and I think Wayne was a little surprised by that, probably because there's different state regulations in Illinois than there are here in Connecticut, but Randy's obviously a professional farmer and is very conversant with that. So he was suggesting there was quite a bit of ability to draw out of there if we can do some testing in that water. So I'd like to
say a filter, maybe filtered, because they do it on Webster Lake all the time, but you know, we would have to test the river water, but maybe some kind of a little filtered system too. I mean, we've got all the access to all that water there, why not use it?
Yeah, just something to keep in mind, Grant, again, for the final iteration, which, you know, that deliverable is essentially due next month, to just to have that even as an option shown in an appendix or something.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because that was the key, what you just said, but Randy said, Mr. Blackman said that. Because of the water quality of what is coming down from upriver, that's the key. The state DEP and that, they got some tight restrictions on that, you know, so.
But I mean, there,
But the possibility is, like you say, they might have to dig a pool or a certain
filtered
area
system, yeah,
to create a filter system, get the water in, gets filtered.
because it would
whatever.
depend on the price too, I mean, the cost too.
All
you know.
that comes into play.
Yeah.
Right, and that goes, Grant, to some of the back and forth emails we had with our former wetlands agent and her commentary about, you know, some of the additional permitting and testing that would have to be done before we come up to a final plan. So in that section or appendix or whatever, be sure to include any anticipated additional tests that we would need to do and what kind of cost those add to the next step of the project.
Wonderful. Yeah, that would be amazing if we could collect water from the river. And I know there's some pretty cost-effective ways to do that too, with like ram pump technology that would use you know, zero energy.
Well, they
This
have-
is Mara. Can I?
Go ahead, Maura.
So I think originally when it was discussed, I had said it might take a lot of transport, but I realize now that that actually could be good for the forest guilds that are right there next to the river. And I know there's regulations on how much water you can take for irrigation. So I don't remember the number, but it's so many gallons or thousands of gallons or whatever it is. So that would be need to be looked into as well.
Yeah, Randy knew it right off the top of his head last time.
Okay.
He's not able to be here tonight, so
Zero.
I can get that from him easily.
Zero, if I remember what Randy said, it's 26,000 gallons per acre,
Per acre,
per acre.
wow,
I
That's a
think
lot of water.
yeah,
that was a figure that came out JBL, but I actually think it was to answer a different question.
Well, I think he said if I remember what he said, if somewhat it was, you're allowed, because he does it off the Quinnebog River when he's watering the corn down along the river and everything he's got. So he's 26,000. So if he's growing 10 acres of corn, which he does, you figure that's a lot of water, but it's allowable.
Yeah, yeah. The point is, I guess, regardless, we can get that number very, very easily. Onwards.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Well,
Just before you change that slide, could the overflow swale, and now maybe, you know, maybe you want that, I think someone mentioned maybe down through the trees, but could you also route that back into the river if we didn't want to extend that swale all the way down to, you know, through the property there.
The question is, could we extend this swale all the way down this slope into the bottomlands?
No, could that, maybe my bearings aren't straight, the river's right up behind it, right?
No.
River's
Downhill.
Downhill, see what it.
Oh.
Yeah, so as we're facing it in the room, the river is to
Okay.
your
Yeah.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that,
My bearings.
Going that.
yeah, the stuff towards
Yeah.
the top is the Frontier Building.
You got east and west
Okay.
turn.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I'll get,
That's north.
north is top.
Okay,
North is top.
all right, yeah, I'm thinking
There you
west.
go.
Thank you.
yeah, this is a picture of the entire property for everyone to just get oriented.
Oh, Valerie, I do see your hand raised. When I'm screen sharing, just so you know, I can't see the participants quite as well, so I'm just gonna trust people in the Zoom room to take themselves off mute and ask their questions.
So you just want me to yell? I just want to state what I think is the obvious that came out of the last meeting. I believe I'm seeing changes up at the parking lot, which addressed room for snow storage, snow removal. There were concerns about where the parking spaces had originally been shown, and I think that's addressed here, but I just wanted to mention it.
Yep, we took that into consideration. We removed some planting that was along this portion of the parking lot so that we could be pushing snow into this lawn area, and as well could be pushed into this corner and reduce maybe a little parking space during the winter.
Yes, Steve?
I just have a quick question, because it's dead center in the line. What fills the rain barrels? Maybe I wasn't.
All right, so our thoughts on that was these rain barrels, just with the layout of the land, you could gravity feed these with the hose directly from these above ground cisterns. And if not through these cisterns, then through a tap on the outside of the building, which I believe is how it's been filled up prior years.
Yeah, just to state what many may not know, those existing rain barrels are the only current source of water for the community garden. They only get filled now by me asking the fire department to come over with the water tanker. Or sometimes Donahue Lawn Care has done it. He's done it once or twice for me. That's obviously inefficient and ends up turning me into an accidental nag if it doesn't get done. So I would really prefer a better option than that, but that was the only solution we had when we installed the community garden. So those rain barrels exist, they are there, but there is no single efficient way to fill them right now.
Okay, but once the building is okay with, roofing and everything, could make sure that, we have downspouts that go right into,
Yes, definitely.
My son had two
And
good
put
down.
filters on the gutters so that nothing gets in the gutters and they
Right,
get
yeah.
the flow.
Or my son had filters right on the rain barrel.
Yeah, that too, with screen.
And then I
Screen
noticed-
screening.
We're gonna have a little garden shed or something. Someplace there, any type of little building that's there could. Cause it would be nice if the rain barrels, of course, they have to be on the building, because I don't know how we would use them, whether we do. Watering cans, or sometimes there's also a system where you can have a hose going.
You have a spigot at the bottom of the barrel,
Right,
on and off. and
Well,
hose.
that's what's on the existing rain barrels.
The spigot.
And I will say that they are Mickey Moused by me and the people who installed that. It's not like real irrigation line. It's,
right.
I mean, they are soaker hoses, but it's not like a real irrigation system, and we buried them by hand, and it did
So-
kind of work, but we could use a better solution there.
So Ann Miller here, having hauled water, we ended up purchasing, last summer was of course not a problem, but the summer before, we ended up purchasing some 5-gallon cans, and we had old cat litter things, and we were just hauling water over there continually, even with the barrels there. So Tara's right. It's just, and it's a system that's aged a little with that drip irrigation. It doesn't reach what would be on the bottom of your screen for that garden. It doesn't really reach all of that unless the barrel is quite full. So, so she's right. It's not the solution. It was welcomed, and we loved it, but we definitely didn't do it. And then I agree there needs to be some kind of a shed for the maintenance tools to take care of any of this.
So again, Grant, as we're accumulating information from this session, this is stuff, to be articulated in that final strategies, like, what are all the possible watering strategies for the property? I mean, not just water cachement for its own sake, but how is that being moved from where it comes off the roof to the actual plantings of annual edible crops? The perennial crops, obviously, as they grow in, they require less and less manual watering, but the actual annual vegetable crops and the watering needs while the plantings are getting established, those things are critical. I would ask that you include estimates and options for an actual drip irrigation system on a timer that would run from the building.
You got the 1,000-gallon tank, or if they put 1,000, even a 15, it's gonna be made to hold water. You can put your timer and everything right out of there, run your irrigation system right out of that tank. That's your best area. Now you don't have to put a shed over here or do this. Or the other thing you could do is right where the blue arrows are for the overflow swale, you could put a 250-gallon tank, whatever that is, right there, and then they could, with a solar powered pump, they could pump the water from a tank over there. So that's just an easy option. One of them fiberglass tanks that you can put in the ground. You don't have to worry about that, put one of them pumps on it. Because if the water's gonna go through the overflow, you might as well try to capture what you can over there for the garden. So it won't have to be as far, just a shorter distance.
What is that gray double rectangle? Yep,
We're looking at a small high tunnel or a greenhouse here.
okay, thank you.
Good, I like that.
Oh, speaking of that greenhouse or structures like it, Grant, this is brand new information to me as of yesterday. There's a gentleman who's been shopping around a commercial property in town who, he and I were talking yesterday. Apparently his daughter raises pollinator plants, specifically monarch host plants, and she may be a recipient of, I think he said it was a $50,000 grant from the National Geographic Society to establish a nursery.
That would be good because I raise monarchs too.
I was thinking of you as soon as he said that, in fact. So I will try to put you in touch with him to connect with her. I think the more relationships we can build into this property to make it sustainable, because that ultimately that nursery would be for profit for her. So if there's a way to generate income for the property out of that, I would
That would be.
like to see room for it.
Idea.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Happy to be put in touch with her. And again, any comments, anything we'd like to see included in the report, all these options we'll be putting in a very detailed report that we'll be hopefully getting to you guys next month, I believe. Just want to iterate that again. So I'm taking notes. I'll be sure to address it.
I'm recording this too, Grant, so you'll get my version of notes plus the recording back as well, so you'll have plenty of reminders of all of this.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Kira, can I ask a question?
Of course, Alvin.
Speaking of water gutters, given the height of that building, is any thought of giving those gutters secure? In other words, what kind of rain guards are we going to have on those gutters to prevent buildup of leaves and snow, etc.?
Reading.
I don't
We'll
have
include-
the
we'll-
answer to that question, Alvin, but I can tell you the gutters are going on this spring as part of the roofing contract under the renovation grant. So I can ask that question of the roofer, what the product is that they're putting on.
Perfect.
At those screening things,
I'm
right with them.
I would be shocked if it wasn't already a part of their plan, but I will double check.
One other question,
Good to ask.
Yes.
Kira.
Yes, Alvin.
Is there any identification on the roadside to what this whole area is about? I don't see anything at the end of the beginning of the driveway there in. Is there any plans for some type of signage?
Grant, can you scroll over to the west so we can see everything you've indicated? There are those current sign posts there. Certainly we could reuse those signposts to add a sign, whether it just be, a sign naming the facility or something more interpretive.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, I know.
I'm lost. Wouldn't the rain barrels be on the building? From the gutters?
That's right. No, they'd be down at the bottom, they would be fed.
Good to go.
No, what I meant was we had there, it showed the three of them,
Freestanding.
but there wasn't a building there.
Yeah.
Those-
Those are there now.
Oh, that's what you've got.
They are the big, I don't even know how many gallons those are, and they've got drip holes in the top for rain collection, so it doesn't evaporate out as quickly.
Okay.
But they get filled right now by me calling the fire department and saying, would you please come load them?
Because there's nothing big enough for the water to come in like all day today? There's no.
There's little
Right, yeah.
leaf holes
Oh,
drilled throughout the top.
Yeah.
But, anything that can infiltrate in can evaporate out, so it's an
But-
imperfect solution.
but our new rain barrels would come off the building, right?
The two new cisterns are shown there right next to the building.
Oh, there they, oh, okay. Oh, I didn't,
Yeah.
okay, I see that. Gotcha. Okay, I'm all set.
Okay,
I was getting confused.
Yep.
it's okay.
And
Now we can
again,
talk about
these
sign.
cisterns. Yeah, and again, these cisterns right off the building.
Okay, I
We
see.
also have a formula we use to see how far we can transport water horizontally on the landscape based on how high up it's stored. And these cisterns would be able to fill these by gravity alone. However, I took a note of what you're saying, that these struggle to irrigate these beds. So maybe these need to be lifted up higher, and maybe there's another solution. I'll be looking at with Wayne, and again, I'll be sure to include those on the report. And as far as the signage in the front, we'll include that in the report as well, what that might look like. But we have this farm stand here that will act as a small kiosk, and be happy to put in some more signage in here if that's what we're feeling.
I mean, I think some identifying signs about the project will be important there. I mean, part of the function of this facility is educational, and that includes educating people about what we're doing, not just educating people in it, and
Mhm.
sort of building that civic pride in it so people can point to it. So I would agree that it is important to identify what it is, what the purpose is, doesn't necessarily all need to be on one sign, but to make sure that it's called out that this isn't just a house with a nice garden.
Spread throughout the property.
Yeah, there's definitely some spots indicated on the Riverside property. They specifically named spots for interpretive signs, but to some extent, I think that's something that we can decide after the fact. I don't think that the placement of signs needs to be decided in this as much as the rest of the site design, because that's something you can easily add based on how the property evolves.
Tara, was there any consideration to like the pavers, like doing a sponsorship as this is coming into play, offering sponsorships for like, you know, your name, your family name on a paver or?
We haven't discussed it yet, but again, let's take ideas like that, Grant, and put those into that final implementation plan. Because part of the final implementation plan is strategies for raising the funds to construct. I mean, everybody here knows that I'm waiting on notification on that grant to finish the renovation of the building, but that doesn't touch any of this site work. That's going to be a whole separate
Yeah.
series of grants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so grants,
Sheds.
Cookie process,
right,
little by little.
right. I have to talk to you about that, by the way, but we'll talk to you later. Later.
Okay, yeah, and we'll include some other, some options for signage. You can include QR codes where you can scan on your phone and it takes you to an app, a web page that'll provide more information or videos even. And we'll include some options for different educational features, signage for the cistern, the mushroom log, or the compost, and some images of what that might look like.
All right. What's next, Grant?
We're zooming in here to the area we've designated as a patio. We were having some conversation last time about the feasibility of what kind of kitchen elements we could include. There's a question about, if liability would be an issue for having oven element with fire, but for now we designated a area for a earthen oven and just a very basic kitchen for teaching, some tables and a little amphitheater here.
So this does look a little different to me, Grant, than the last time, at least in how you placed that, what I think we all agreed was a service kitchen, not a full commercial outdoor kitchen.
Mhm.
And in relationship to, the possible amphitheater, which I think we should refer to as something else because an amphitheater is a very specific form. That seems more awkward. I'm guessing that the reason that kitchen stuff moved to that location on the building is because you're now indicating the underground cistern on the other side where I thought it was before, but maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly.
Yeah, I don't think we actually changed the footprint of the patio.
I feel like
Uh,
that sink area was on the other side.
Over here.
No, on where the two parts of the building L together.
It's outside.
Over here.
Yeah, and maybe I'm misremembering that, but that's where I thought I had seen it on the first plan, which made more sense to me in relationship to having that audience space. It just seems to me if there's some intention for that to be available for seating for performances, it would be weird to have a sink behind it.
Sure. Okay, so we're looking at shifting the sink over to this side of the building and keeping this more open.
Yeah, I think so. And I swear that's what I thought it was the first time, but maybe I just hallucinated that because it made sense to me then too.
No, you're correct. I remember that too.
Okay, good. It's not just me.
All right. I can make sure we move that back. And what do we have any thoughts about an earthen oven?
Well, I think the same kind of thing. I have no, unlike the open fire pits, I have no specific objection to the earthen oven. But if that curved seating area is intended to accommodate, you know, room for small performances, just disruptive and weird for somebody that, you know, is coming there to do that.
And you take the two tables that are in that corner down, what would be the,
Zoom out a scotch, please.
Sure.
oh yeah, push it up. Nice, take those two tables from around that corner.
Keep going, a little more.
Yeah. Take those, put them by the pizza oven, and then move everything into that corner, like you said.
Hmm.
Move the sinks down.
Yeah.
Balance the tables on both sides, but leave in the middle.
What is the round circle part on the upper part of that patio?
That's
That's like the pizza oven or something.
Is it?
Yeah, this would be an earthen oven, and I know our thinking was, you know, you'd have a presenter or a group set up right here, and our audience would be mainly just out here and maybe in the lawn. But it sounds like we're wanting to create more seating space actually underneath the this.
Well, I'm just looking at the way this is set up. Again, using the term amphitheater, which this is not, because an amphitheater is sunken and raked into essentially like a terraced area. But regardless, we can use that term, understand it's not exactly correct. The orientation of that seating is toward the building. So if that area, you can tell that I'm an actual performer, right? So if that area has the focus, whether it be for lectures or for music performances, whatever, that extra hardware, those artifacts of the oven, the sinks, the tables become a distraction for anyone under there. Now, if the intention is this is always and only for educational lectures having to do with the service kitchen, I think that's less of an issue. So, but Dan Bennett put in the comments in the chat that maybe those things could all be on wheels so that they can be wheeled in and out, which could solve your problem.
Or extend.
And this is Valerie. And I was going to say, I don't know what the structures are for the curved seating, but maybe you want that to be flexible, because wouldn't there be times where maybe you want your performance to be out on the open lawn, or your presentation to be out on the open lawn and people facing that direction? So I think you want a lot of flexibility and not a lot of fixed structure here.
So maybe Grant, you and Wayne can put your heads together on other kinds of options that make the whole arrangement more flexible.
Absolutely. I'm going to see if I can just pull up briefly, just quickly, an image of what we were thinking for that space.
Some of that, and you still get all you. Just, come on. 15
So,
feet.
so eat into the lawn. Yeah. So
Yeah.
while you're looking for that, Grant, what Dave is sort of pointing at on the screen in the room is to expand the patio area a little bit to the east, make it larger so that those sinks in the oven or whatever essentially recede more into the background.
Center them. center them so they could be part of a demonstration if people are sitting out there. Like, yeah, that's what I think he was getting
Yeah.
at, like, it's part of a demonstration. So you'd want it centered. And then you have a rolling lattice structure or something that you, if you're having, other than a cooking demonstration, you roll that lattice in
Yep.
front of it.
And I think I saw Jay, you take yourself off mute, so I'm not paraphrasing you and just introduce your idea too.
I just think it's not some kind of food demonstration.
Yeah, you must be on your phone, Jay. We're having trouble hearing you in the room.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, kids are playing in the same area. Yeah, so that's exactly what I was thinking of. If it's not a food demonstration.
I think we got you. Just being able to conceal those. Yeah, I got you, Dan. Being able to conceal those if they're not a part of whatever's being demonstrated or taught.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that's also feasible. So just, again, some sort of layout options that allow a little more flexibility in the space as opposed to fixed points.
Okay, yeah, love it.
Is that a covered? Or, okay, open, just open.
Yeah, Steve Lewis is asking if that's a covered patio or open, but I think that you've shown a pergola there before, right? And it's just a little more faint in this. I think that this is.
Yeah, I think it's
Pergola.
Yeah, that's correct. We were thinking to have a wooden pergola with vines, some native vines, trumpet creepers, things like that.
Yeah. You could hang.
Good idea.
Yeah.
They could be edible vines.
Great funds.
If the.
I
ceiling
believe
was
that is-
straight instead of curved, I mean, you could sit out and make great jelly.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you're gonna need some sort of light, you need some structure over that patio, so you have some downcast lighting. So if you're gonna have a performance at night or do something, it does.
Make some set trees, yeah.
Can you see my screen right now?
The screen has not changed.
Okay, let me see.
I'm already, don't worry. It's open.
Grant, if you can show the social area view that you guys did, do you have that?
Oh, I
That
can,
should show-
yeah.
That should show the area.
Okay.
Here we go. We can see it now in the room.
Yeah.
Okay, where am I going right now? To the social area?
No, you can do that. I just thought maybe that would help.
Okay, yeah, I'll pull back up this image of the seating area. Okay, can you see this?
Yep, you just want to scroll. We need to see more of the image. All we have is the top of the guy's head.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Yeah. and
So
it-
this is what we're thinking, but I also like how you're saying maybe more multifunctional, maybe something mobile. Maybe
Yeah.
it's more movable benches.
And I think you need to think about people who may have mobility issues. Just, I think it needs to be a very flexible structure.
And there's definitely appeal to the architectural quality of something like this, but the trade-off is obviously that flexibility.
Sure, and we don't have too much space. We want to keep it as multifunctional as possible. There might be an image. It wouldn't quite look this extravagant, but if you can see this image of the patio, this is one example of what a pergola
Well-
could look like.
Why wouldn't
Why
it look
couldn't it be
that
that?
extravagant?
Well, hey, I mean, they're not on wheels. They're not on wheels, but it looks nice.
Thank you.
Okay.
That image is about what was in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing about that that's genuinely extravagant is that it's mature vines and it's got light strung on it. I don't, and I don't think anybody's suggesting that the pergola is on wheels.
No.
It's the other,
Okay,
it's the other fixtures. It's the seating. If the oven is on a platform that can be wheeled. Yeah.
Now, workbenches that can be on wheels.
okay, yeah, absolutely. The pergola, this aspect of this image is pretty close to what we're envisioning. All right. Go back to the plan here.
I have a question. It's way off. What is our frontage?
The road frontage,
Yeah,
do you show those dimensions on this? Because it's hard for me to go to the parcel map to measure it.
You referring to the easement off the road?
The road frontage, not the setback. That's what you're asking, right? The road
yeah, I'll
frontage?
take the setback too, but I would,
Unless it shows it
Sorry.
on the paper. Let me see if it's on the paper copy.
Not on this.
acreage, what is the acreage? No, I couldn't. Huh?
6.
Well, it's just over, I think, a half an acre, because those old houses.
Oh, just-
The main site is 0.55.
Pardon?
The acreage of the main site, 65 main itself is 0.55. That I know.
Like 5.5 acres.
No,
Yeah.
0.55.
Oh,
Just
oh.
over half, but that's just for this part. This is somewhere between 3.2, 3.5 acres, depending on how you measure it. I've been using 3.2,
So the whole thing, the building, everything
is
is
roughly 4 acres.
that's right, okay.
And it's deep, it goes from the road to the river, that's where you pick up your acreage, is going back,
Right,
not the width, it's.
right, well, I was looking for the frontage, but then the depth too.
Yeah, it's not on the paper plan. The dimensions
Okay.
aren't
The
on there.
frontage, I think the frontage should be no more than 150 feet from, point to point.
I doubt if it's even that much.
Well, that was one of the bigger lots on Main Street. As compared to
it's-
the other ones.
It's still only 0.55 acres. I mean, it's,
Very, very tiny.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's less than 100 feet of frontage.
Well.
But I don't know.
Our plan shows, excluding the driveway, you're looking at 100 feet of frontage there.
All right, so more than
To
I thought,
include
but
the- Yeah,
So you figure we add the driveway in, you got another 20 feet.
What's that, 100? That's not very much.
No,
Hey, that's, parking.
so people are asking about parking and somebody just popped a question in the chat about the parking as well. Why don't you scroll
So-
down to parking area there?
yep, we have designated 7 spots down here, standard at 10-foot wide, 20 feet deep. And yeah, for bigger events, that's something to think about where other people could park, or if we're gonna have, a bus available.
So I can tell you what I know about parking capacity in that area is that you're a block and a half from the library, which has a very sizable lot.
Can you walk? from there?
Oh my God, you can walk from there in 2 minutes.
The sidewalk project, right?
There are existing sidewalks in crappy condition, but we're hoping to get those repaired
Okay,
as
yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of that next grant. Regardless, it is a sidewalk. It is walkable. It is not a high traffic road. I believe there are currently no parking signs on the road, but we have no parking enforcement. So they're notional at best, and I would actually recommend, and I've spoken to people in that neighborhood about this, I would recommend not having those no parking signs, or maybe only on one side of the street, because allowing on-street parking is a thing that slows traffic. So it's some of the concerns of the local residents are that, you know, traffic coming off of, from
Route 12.
Route 12 coming southbound can still sometimes fly in. You're gonna slow down in a hurry if there's cars in your way, so
Road wide enough for parking?
I don't see how it is.
on one side, yeah, I bet there.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the rate of speed that you should be
Should be going, yeah.
traveling there, yes, there is absolutely room for on-street parking on one side.
Right.
Right? Everybody freaks out about parking, like you have to have parking in road widths, like you have to have these massively wide roads. Wide roads are less safe than narrow roads because you travel faster down them.
Mm.
Right? There are way more accidents on wide roads than narrow roads.
Wrong way driving is really cool.
And apparently a big problem in Connecticut, but that is not necessarily related to this project. Yeah, so anyway, so there are strategies there. There is a lot of capacity for parking at the library. I would not be too strongly objecting to reserving most of that parking for mobility access for those who really need it.
Handicap.
Right, because there is really no reason you cannot, as an able-bodied person, park at that side lot on the library especially. I mean, you could practically see the building from there.
Valerie had a note, I missed the end, missed it.
There's a lot of stuff in the chat here. Expand the chat. So,
I was just commenting about Dan Bennett's comment about accessibility on the driveway. We were back on the flexible seating thing.
Yep. And I can capture all these comments in the chat to send to Grant and Wayne too, so it'll be a part of the record. But just so you guys know, when you're putting stuff in the chat, it's flying by us really fast while Grant is screen sharing, so you may as well just take yourself off mute. Don't worry about being rude this time. We're all friends here. Yeah, I mean, parking capacity is not a non-issue, especially in terms of the daily function of the building as a business center or education center. But I think that if we start to think about using all of our space downtown, that it becomes less critical in that way. That's my opinion. Others may have different opinions.
What
Go
is the site next door?
To the north, you mean?
Yes.
That's the Frontier Building, which is an unmanned facility. I think somebody comes in the morning, checks in, and then drives out.
Yeah.
Technically, we do not have an agreement with them for parking. I wouldn't be too surprised if we could negotiate one fairly easily. People park there.
Yeah. Well, I remember when you first opened up the garden, or there was an event early on in this, a few years ago, I think a bunch of people parked there. I
Yeah.
parked there.
Yeah, it was on weekends, it's
Yeah.
completely unmanned, so it certainly would be worth exploring with Frontier if we could get some kind of use agreement on their off hours, or really even during their hours, as long as there's at least one designated spot for their own employees. I mean, it's just wasted space otherwise.
Yep.
You don't lie. No.
Allison, I see your question. There is an existing bike rack, or sort of, the hazmat abatement guys knocked it over. They owe me one, but there is a bike rack there already. What's next, Grant?
All right, we'll keep moving.
Before we move just back on the bike thing, is the bike rack shown?
It is.
Okay,
Yep, if you can
Where
see
is
right
it?
here where my cursor is.
okay, that's where the bike rack is.
You're a little above it, your cursor. It's that blue line at
Blue
the
line.
bottom corner of the open lawn.
Right there.
Right
Yeah.
there.
Thank you.
All right, and go down to the parking spots again. I don't know if our screens are synced up. Can you see this flower bed where my cursor is?
Your cursor's a little above, your cursor's a little bit off for where you're seeing it and where we're seeing it, but you're in the vicinity.
All right. So we had trees here in the last plan, and we chose to put just a very small raised garden bed here for flowers to border these two properties. I think we felt that the trees were a little too encroaching on the neighbor's property, and we wanted to preserve our parking space here. Moving up.
While you're in that corner, Grant, I spoke to the fire marshal today, actually based on some feedback that Steve had recently about communicating with emergency services about access to the bottomlands. If we're opening that up as trails, what happens if there's an injury? What happens if there's a fire? How do they get down there? And I'll send you those notes tomorrow, but his suggestion was that we include that we add actually a gate there that emergency services would have a key to right at that corner where that last parking space is, and try to negotiate an easement with the neighbor for emergency services to use that to bring their emergency ATV down there in case of injury. Because I think the only reasonable access is really through the neighboring property towards the bottomland. I think that's where the ridge flattens out.
Yeah.
I know we're getting away from the parking now, but since it was
Yeah,
in the vicinity.
I think though there was a ridge in the top, the northeast over here that did
That's where it's steepest, yeah.
and up a little bit closer to where that culvert is, there was a somewhat of a gentle grade, but however, everything south of here is a pretty steep ridge still, and maybe a little earthwork need to be done, or we could look at creating access for a vehicle through here as well and remove some of these plantings.
Yeah, we're gonna need to have some kind of option for emergency purposes, because that's way far off the road. And nobody's gonna be driving anything bigger than,
Or you need something the width of about 6.
yeah, it's a souped up ATV is what it is.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you need at least a 6-foot path.
All right, I'll make a note of that. And we can include an option for right here on the property as well.
Yeah, I mean, anything we
Oh.
could do that doesn't require us to get an easement with a neighbor is better, but I know it gets a little easier to access that area, that most remote area at the southernmost point where we took out the fire pit, but there's still seating. I mean, it's a shorter distance, and I think it's a gentler grade down by that end.
Just cutting that corner.
What about coming in from the library of the park? I mean, not the library, the parking area that you said is accessible for people to come onto the property? Could you make a path? with that
From the
existing sidewalk?
From the library,
Yeah, oh,
as you get further north from 65 Main toward the library on the riverside, it's like a sheer drop off.
oh,
There's nothing,
so you can't access.
like behind Renee
further north.
Waldron's house, right behind, yeah, it's
Oh,
straight down.
Okay, never having seen it.
Yeah.
But, Tara, like, if you scroll back down to where the parking lot is, and then if you put a path in, you can use that path as one of your walking paths and integrate it in with that. So, you don't even have to put a gate. If it's integrated, people could walk right down, especially somebody that wants, that's a little bit handicap or something, you make it so it's easier so they can walk, instead of trying to go down a slope or something like that.
Well, for visitors, we've got a couple of access points that
Right.
are already
But,
included,
I
those
mean,
boardwalks.
If you
Yeah.
integrated something like that in with that, it would, you don't have to go through all the getting Eastman or whatever. Food for thought,
Yeah.
that's what I would be looking at, is so they can run their souped up charged four-wheeler or
Well, I
whatever.
don't want to encourage,
What's that?
don't want to encourage.
Well, that's what I've
that.
been thinking about, not even a four-wheeler, but
Adult car.
but two-wheelers, that can fit through all the, like, things, they'd have a ball.
Well, no,
You don't want that.
That wouldn't be allowed anyway. It would
But
not-
how would you stop it after hours?
Well, that's always a problem in any public space.
Any place.
So let's make.
In other words, when the sign is posted or whatever it is, town property, no trespassing and everything, you're taking the liability. So if somebody wants to go down there and he wants to do cartwheels with his motorbike or something.
Because all you need is a little space like this to get your motorcycle, you're off,
Like a
road.
four-wheeler or something like that. you
Well,
know.
Can I just interject? All of this area is like wetlands, so I don't think they might do it once and get trapped in there. So maybe the point is moot.
Wetland.
It's just to have a safety net. for people.
Yeah, so this point has come up a couple of times, and it's not an unworthy point of being raised. Once this gets developed for public use, it's developed for public use, and the public doesn't always behave in the ways that you want them to, right? So there are trade-offs to be anticipated, and our job in this process is to minimize those impacts.
How about lighting?
I think we've generally agreed we do not want this lighted at night.
That would deter somebody from
That
going
would
down.
deter some, although these bikes have lights.
We can't stop that.
I know.
A lot of your
It's like
outdoor
the-
ones don't have lights, so, because would be too dangerous for them, so, but.
No, but
Kids
I,
are kids.
okay. No,
One benefit of the facility coming online is that as there's more human activity there, the principle that was articulated by Jane Jacobs is called eyes on the street, right? The more people who are there looking, the less likely somebody is going to make
thinking-
mischief while people are looking. It's probably, look, the Santoses and I caught those kids who got into the building before we had changed the locks, right? Because nobody's there watching. Some neighbor had called into town hall. We walked over one day. The kids were in there, graffitiing the place up, right?
What's this?
This was right before we had the place gutted. I mean, the timing actually in some ways couldn't have been better.
Oh,
But if that was a manned facility, right, with people coming and going all the time, that doesn't happen. It's the vacancy that creates the hazard. Now, it's not that there's no hazards associated with the fact that it now becomes accessible, but this is behind people's yards.
yeah, that's a close neighborhood.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of eyes. So mischief can happen, but it's also more likely to be reported more quickly.
Yeah,
In fact, even more quickly, I would suggest on this side of the river than on the actual Riverside Park side, because after dark, there's no eyes on that.
that's right.
No lights really. No,
No, there's
Yeah,
none.
but it's
Eyes
across the
in-
street, town hall. and
There's only the
there's
street
nothing.
lights, but they're not there. Well, yeah.
What's next, Grant?
All right. So I think we've made it to the garden at this point.
Sure.
This is existing signage that's already there, so we're suggesting put some more fruiting shrubs or native shrubs here, some flowers to accent it. Right here, we designated some waste bins, recycling. Yeah, and these garden beds and a fence around these, this is all already there. This area currently, this whole food forest area is forested right now, so we're suggesting to take down pretty much all these trees and replant everything in this area with more productive species and some native varieties.
Is that an
We have
area,
our-
Grant, which is mostly Norway maple?
This is all, yeah, almost solely Norway maple. I think there's one black walnut, and then we have some native, I think raspberry or blackberry growing right along where the compost bins would go.
Yeah, nut trees are in now.
So if you all get access to this plan, we included list of plant species we'd like to see incorporated. And if anyone has any input, you can shoot us an email. But everything on here is would be, after this stage, will be numbered and actually assigned to the plants we have on the map. So we're looking at, in that food forest area, apple, cherry, mulberry, pear, apricot, plum, and peach, these kind of varieties of fruit and smaller shrubs, hazelnut, potentially chestnut and pecan or walnut for these larger trees in the back here. We have a compost bins right here next to the gardens that will build a report for how to manage this system. Here we have a kiosk or a pavilion. This we saw acting as a kind of a welcoming area, have a map of the site, or have some more educational information about the landscape and what's going on here. In the
And while
middle of the
While we're talking about the plantings up on that area, you saw the emails back and forth with Maura and Jack Swat from the American Chestnut Foundation, the
Yep.
Connecticut chapter. Yeah, so Maura, you said you're gonna meet Jack next Friday, right?
Yes,
Sweet.
I thought, more in the bottomlands would be the chestnut trees, no? Or you're thinking up top?
Well, I actually don't know. I think both things were discussed, and somebody had suggested that it might be too sharply draining down in the bottomlands, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, chestnuts like well-drained soils, and they, historically occurred mostly on upland ridges. So our thinking was we absolutely want chestnut on the site. It's an amazing tree, amazing nut. So we were initially thinking to have, the larger trees up here to be chestnut, but Jack actually mentioned that he's come across some chestnuts that were growing in bottomland with similar plant species to what we're already seeing on site. So I'll be curious to hear more of his thoughts after he visits the site with Maura. Next, this picnic table area was a fire pit in the previous plan.
He needs to put things in size, and you have to have enough.
And the future generation.
That's right.
Yeah, I think we can look at more of the Riverside plot now. I think we've gone over this detail, unless anybody wants to go back and look at anything on the actual half-acre top plot.
There'll be much there. The tree size spacing is important.
Yeah, because we were just talking about maple trees, maple
Maples and
producing, maple
chestnuts get
syrup, yeah.
big. Nuts trees get big. But then if you get the large trunk, you can put smaller things amongst them.
So you guys may have seen the copy of the plan with the plant guilds. So the plant guilds are what flesh out these areas. You want to talk more about plant guilds, Grant, because you're better at describing it than I am. Like, I understand what they are,
Sure.
but I can only describe it awkwardly.
Sure, sure. So, you know, we're looking to mimic the structure you would encounter in a forest naturally, where you have upper canopy trees, or then you have mid-story trees, you have smaller shrubs and smaller down to herbs, you know, creeping ground covers, and then even the root crops. So this is more like the edge of a forest, what you'd see. We're trying to maximize the intersection of sunlight here. So this, you can think of this like a bowl where you have, if you can see where my cursor is, down by the kiosk and in the center of this ring, the trees will step up and up. And I mean, it's going to be a lot more densely planted than you'd see in an orchard. But the way we have these arranged, all of these trees should be getting enough sunlight to produce without crowding each other out. And some of these the smaller fruit trees in the middle there will, you know, through pruning annually or biannually, just depending on how they're growing.
Trees especially, yeah.
The peach and the apple, oh, yeah.
How large of a tree does one start with something like this? Obviously, you're not gonna plant a fully grown maple tree or chestnut tree, but I mean, you're not starting with the tiniest sapling. Where do you start with on something like this?
Yeah, we'll include options. We have some different ways to approach this. We'll include some nurseries and suggested in prior meetings, but we're going to be working with you know, what's available, and I think that's going to be anything from 2-year-old seedlings, maybe 2 feet tall, to you know, larger trees in you know, 2 to 3 gallon pots that could already be, you know, 4 or 5 feet tall or larger than that.
Peach trees they could have.
Yeah, so in the context of looking at these plans, it's important for everyone to remember that this plan shows a mature project.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, we've gotta take, if we're gonna start little by little, a little bit here, yeah. Very expensive. Trees are very expensive, plants are very expensive, so you're right, it's,
Some of us have plants that needs dividing.
yes, and that's another
that
thing, yeah.
would be a contribution. I have
Those are all the
over.
kinds of things that we'll include as,
Yeah.
Hostas
Like
are good
strategies,
fillers,
right?
Yes,
And
they grow anywhere.
And you want to start with something that's got some body, a little bit of body to it,
They
and
can
people
grow
are gonna
everywhere.
not even know what they're
Right.
looking at.
they
you know,
don't
but
need a
say,
lot of
"Come on."
TLC.
No, just occasional pruning for fruit trees once a year.
Yeah.
Blueberry bushes,
Ah,
definitely. They need to
Yep.
be covered though with the
Yep.
netting of
What's
sorts.
that?
We have a great example of
probably-
blueberry in close to our. It's worked out well.
raspberries are good too.
let's look at the bottomlands grant.
Okay, and I'll
Time.
just lastly to add on this, you know, the development of these planting areas, we will include in the report successional planting. So until these trees are fully grown, there'll still be a lot of you know, open area receiving sunlight around these trees. So it'll be important to plant smaller, you know, cover crops, other things that are going to protect the soil and add nutrients until these trees are fully grown.
Jocelyn, RC&D does educational stuff on green mulching, doesn't it?
Things like. oregano.
Our compost program, which the
Being
conference is next week, but I'm not sure exactly about green mulching.
I thought I saw something come through. Maybe it was just something Amanda had shared.
Yes.
We had some mulching projects with our climate smart work. Let me check with Amanda and see what she knows about that.
Okay.
All right, moving forward, some wildlife habitat houses, such as, you know, pollinator housing. We already have some on site, so we're looking at moving those over here.
It is important to keep those, the Girl Scouts planted installed those with a little teeny bit of grant money that they got,
Now,
so
what is that? I didn't hear.
pollinator houses. Butterfly and mason bee houses.
Okay, all right, at first I was thinking, okay, are we gonna have some beehives there?
Mason bees,
Oh, we
when
got some
they
there?
can be put in a crook of a.
Not beehives, we have pollinator shelters,
Yeah,
little ones.
yeah.
Little
well,
ones.
so-
Yeah, that's what the Girl Scouts put in.
Oh, yeah, all right, cause Ray told me they built some or they put some in.
Mhm.
Not too long ago.
Oh, we've got a couple
you-
now.
I know, I think the guy still has some, he has a whole bunch of them.
I mean,
I don't
those
know
are
what he-
accessories.
Yeah,
that
and use
come
them
after the fact.
is regular beehives, you know, the boxes, the big, so you can get the honey and everything out of them.
Coming in.
Well,
Way.
as a person who has currently an empty hive at her home, I can tell you that beekeeping requires more labor than you think. Karen Durlack's on here. She could talk about that. She actually does successfully keep hives. But the other thing with beehives on public property is allergies.
Yeah.
I would be cautious about that.
All right, should we move on here?
Yes, please.
All right,
It's a homemade.
so I don't think anything really changed on this plan outside of the removal of fire pits. We kept them designated as seating areas. There was one down here. Now we just have the seating area, and then we detailed it out more with some more plantings. I think we added a seating area down here.
Now,
And we
Grant,
wanna
did you get the email that I sent after we had a mill sites meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was Steve who brought the point up about having a little boat slip at one or more of those points?
Oh, I did not see that. Okay.
That could be a little scary though.
Mm,
You have to supervise.
That river kind of moves.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it does.
And what are these seating areas made out of, per se?
Yeah, we're looking at you could put wood chips here, or it could be just maintained with a weed whacker, short grasses, native grasses. I think I have an example here too of the outdoor classroom we were envisioning that I can pull up.
So what kind of seats or desks or?
Well, I think that's what he's gonna switch
I know
switch the
it
image
is.
to.
Can you see this?
Not yet.
Community park get destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's up.
There's-
Don't they have ones now that they make out of a plastic?
Made out of
Everywhere it's
slabs.
plastic.
Plastic or cement?
With,
I'll tell
you
you
know,
what.
three
Somebody
sides,
wants-
you know,
Made out of
with-
Norway maple. There's the pictures.
Yeah,
All those Norway maples you're gonna cut down.
That's right.
Yeah, I know somebody's
Yeah,
got
the
80
Lions
acres,
Club
got a lot of
is
trees
that
on it,
area.
you can get some
I
good
used
wood
to
out of it.
maintain that place and they were
I won't
destroying
mention his
cement,
name.
tornadoes. Yeah.
So these example images, Grant, if you could forward them to me to include in the sort of the rolling report I'm keeping of the things we've discussed for grant purposes, but also to inform us when the organizational partners write the master plan, when we're done with the workshop process.
Absolutely, and we'll be including a lot more of these with the master plan report in the appendix. So we'll have lots of examples.
We're really gonna,
Reminds me of Girl Scouts.
Yeah,
Yeah, those would be nice, you can get them out of
council
trees.
fire.
Mhm.
I think another sort of river access thing that was brought up was a place where recreational fishers could cast out into that river, regardless of whether we have a place where a kayak or a canoer could. Because
I have
people
a-
do fish in the French River.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Big carp.
Oh,
I have a question. Would we have a fence along our property for the river? No.
There is not one currently proposed. You don't have any fencing proposed on that edge.
So
No, no, we were not looking at fencing, but that is an option because, for tree planting, it may be smart to protect what we plant there, and that could be done with individual tree tubes, or it could be done with fencing off this area.
We'll see if Steve Rec
Yeah.
be over there.
Well, we don't have fencing on the other side, so
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I like the fisherman idea, though. Some
Yeah,
sort of
down where that
access.
bench is or something like that.
Yeah,
If
Yeah, you
there's,
could put in another spot, just above it, 2 trees up,
Mm-hmm.
put in another bench for fishing or down a little ways. Yeah, right in, yeah, come down a little bit, right in that area
Yep.
right there,
Yep.
yep, that's open, you could put a bench in there.
yeah, we definitely have high usage by recreational fisher persons pretty much throughout the downtown. That Blaine Road intersection.
Yeah.
I walk, there's
Oh,
people,
yeah,
Especially on the Quinebaug River.
hanging over
Yeah.
the dam, Front Lane Road. That's where I live.
Yeah, cause they walk down off the Gomo and they walk right down to the down to the,
The old
Quinebaug
factory
River,
that
yeah.
is no longer there.
oh, I love that. That's the one.
Yep.
Pretty.
Yeah. they-
That seasonal
Yeah.
pool, is that like a little pseudo canal that goes to that pool?
Oh, seasonal.
Yeah, this is something we're giving thought to, but there is a natural,
Oh, okay.
this isn't something we're proposing. It's already in here, a natural channel.
Okay.
And this area, we were on site twice, and both were several days after a rain event, and this area was holding water, but I don't think that's not year round. This area, hold water and dry out, and there's always a constant trickle.
Right.
That's what it seems like. Maybe this dries up, but it seems like there's a more or less constant trickle of water that's making its way through this path.
Really? Yeah, if it
Well,
was a
seasonal-
ground, it could still even seep in.
Seasonal, you could-
Marla felt very strongly that it is not a vernal pool, which is a very specific
But-
thing,
but
ecological.
You'll take
The
total,
thing-
they'll lay eggs anywhere, maybe not salamander.
The thing with vernal pools is that they aren't known to have inputs or outputs. And I think that was the biggest point of contention. There could be some overlapping species between the two, but that's the main distinction, that a vernal pool wouldn't have an input.
Hmm.
It is good for the project if that is not a vernal pool,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
As
Not
soon
a
as
vernal
you're,
pool.
as soon as you're talking about a vernal pool, the protections become much
You
more
still will get-
rigorous.
You still probably will get tadpoles in there, but.
Right, but
But
it's
it
still
won't
not
be
the
like-
same, it's not the
Right.
same thing.
Salamander,
All
right.
that wording.
Okay, I got it, okay.
Well, it's not just about wording, it's about what the words lead to.
Yes.
So, and that is fed, I mean, you saw it, that culvert, as far as we can figure out, is draining the Old Superior Bakery property. So stormwater runoff is coming through that culvert down here. Now, that bakery's been there for however many decades. So whether that was a naturally occurring stream or it has channelized over time is no longer relevant. It's now permanent. So,
I've got a situation like that on my property too,
Mhm.
from up above and it drains down right through our property.
Yeah, I have the same thing.
What's above where the water comes from?
Good question. I think it's underground.
Underground? Well, that would.
Yeah, I think it comes underground, but boy, I mean, we've had these rains, we've had a lot of water go right through the.
so does anybody have any more questions or comments on this part of the plan? We've set aside time for ourselves till 8. We can take less or more time as we want.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What are we talking about for surface on those trails?
On surface?
What kind of surface on the trail area?
Yep, we're looking at here in the area that stays more wet, we're looking at actually putting in a constructed boardwalk, like a wooden boardwalk slightly above ground.
Yeah, like.
And then when you get to this area with soil that stays drier, actually maintain some structure. We have options for wood chips was the main idea we were working with, or it could be just a dirt path.
Use pellets.
What about that stone gravel stuff? That's pretty good, isn't it? That's,
Screening,
I don't know
I
what.
don't know
Like
about
the process stuff,
Pardon?
the processed gravel,
yeah,
it's good. But if you're gonna do what they're doing, if you're gonna do it, you wanna put down a couple inches of processed gravel. Then if you put a good, what they call millings that they use off the road.
yeah,
You know, you put that down and you roll and compact it.
it's
I don't
there.
think you want millings
Okay.
down.
I don't think we
water.
want millings down, yeah.
No, I'm just saying that would be a good option for that reason, because you can walk on it, be just like putting down concrete.
But again, you're gonna have 1,000 Norway maples you're taking down. That's an awful lot of wood chips,
Yes.
an awful lot of park benches.
Will some of the area be paved like for people with wheelchairs and walkers, or? Will it be handicap accessible, or
You
some
have
of
to
it?
really-
So can you go to the inset that shows the ramp a little better, Grant?
Yeah.
It's Valerie, and I won't have the word off the top of my head, but to be handicap accessible, it does not have to be paved. There are other materials that are more environmentally friendly that still meet the ADA criteria.
And we'll include all these options in the report. I think a big part of it's going to come down to what the Wetland Commission has to say. If we can get any input from them, it'd be great in this phase of the plan.
I'm gonna ask you to price out Boardwalk and Trex board. Even though Trex is the most expensive product in the planet, it also is gonna outlive all of us.
Yep.
I mean, durability is an issue.
And maintenance.
Okay.
I was gonna ask if geotextile is anything that makes sense, appropriate.
Underneath the wood chips, makes sense.
You know more about that than I do.
Who's that?
It's the heavy duty landscape fabric.
Okay.
And there's gridding systems too. And
Yep.
All right, I'm getting all that written down.
A lot of gardens and dug up landscaping off, and it drives me nuts.
It does drive me nuts. I don't like it.
Just in the final report, Grant, also, please make it very clear what the width is of those boardwalks, because that was another question that the fire marshal had.
It's generally about like this, a little wider.
Absolutely. I can tell you that in just a second as well.
Well, I just need it in the long run. I don't need it at this second.
Sure. We're just say, 4 foot for the 3 to 4 foot for the boardwalk, and we're looking at more like 6 foot for the paths through the woods.
Cool.
Makes it so 2 people can pass.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, a couple holding hands, strolling through, manage.
Well, there are not many people, unless you're in your early teens, might be holding hands, but after that, it's.
Where's the love, man?
Where is the love?
There is no love.
They're helping each other up.
That's all it is.
All right, so if there isn't much more comment on the physical elements that have been proposed, I think we should at least start to take some time to talk about how it works, right? Because now we've seen what it looks like. We've put a lot of input in about, changes to the artifacts of the plan, but maintenance strategies, funding strategies. And again, we don't need complete answers here, but as we're setting you up to deliver that final report to us, which is what, you know, then on that back 6 months, you know, I'm taking with the other partners to create the full strategic plan for all of it. Having as much of that articulated in your piece of it is going to be super helpful. So this is a point for people to ask those kinds of questions. And obviously Grant, just, you know, deliver to us here whatever you do have in mind. But again, strategically, how are we getting there? How are we phasing it? Are you aware of particular funding strategies, which almost certainly ends up being my role anyway, but you know, how have you seen these projects come together effectively?
You know, they gotta interrelate and timing wise.
But if I remember correctly, we need to start at the bottom and work our way up the hill. Is that correct? Just from access, when, you know, if everything's finished up at the house site, you don't want to be driving up and down with wood cutting.
I think that, yeah, I think that probably logically, yes, mostly we're working in the bottomlands first. I do think simultaneously you could be working on the terraced gardens to the immediate north of the house.
Yeah.
It's the spiraled gardens really that would be disrupted by that, right? So,
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we'd be looking at maintaining some access for, could be skid steers, you know, some larger equipment to get down here while we're, you know, doing the initial clearing, everything in the forest and getting the plantings done. And if you can see, you see this colorful map here, Plant Guild map?
not yet, but I think we've got a little lag from you.
Okay, I'll try to get it on the screen. But we have these different areas in the forest designated with different what we call plant guilds, which include different plant species for each layer, that, you know, upper canopy, mid-story, down to the herb layer. And we'll be putting together in the plan how to approach each of these areas. Still have different needs for the initial clearing of invasives, some soil amendment, and you know, a successional planting and seeding. So that will be phased in the plan, the ongoing management and maintenance and all the work that needs to get done up front to set this site up. And yes, like you said, it'll be important to maintain access through the spiral garden area until we get a bulk of that done.
Yeah, I mean, we have to assume, as we've said every time, we have to assume that I'm going out in multiple rounds of various forms of fundraising, largely grant-based, possibly sponsorship-based, crowdfunding, whatever. But the chances that I find a unicorn grant that's going to fund the whole thing in one fell swoop are fairly low. Not non-existent, but fairly low.
What's a unicorn?
Meaning it's magical.
Okay.
Meaning it's magical and hard to capture.
Fall from the sky.
Without being specific, what kind of scale of cost are we talking about? Are we talking about 0 to 1 million, 1 million to 10 million? I just in my head, what kind of a scale?
Mega.
2 to 6?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to hold you to this answer forever, Grant, but what is your experience of projects of this scale?
As far as the funding goes,
As far as the overall project costs? Be
oh
prepared
man,
for shock, kiddos.
yeah, no, I wish you know, Wayne was present because he has so much more experience with these projects, of course. And I wish I could give you a number right now. I could throw something out there, but it's really hard for me to say until I take the next step in planning to quantify the number of uh, seedlings we're going to be planting. But
I will tell you that I believe this is in the millions.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
2 to 6, like I said, 1 to 2 or 2 to 6 or 6 to 10, that's
Yeah,
what
but
I
the
was
place
kind of
can't be
wondering.
Disrupted forever.
So,
You've got to pull trees.
Yeah.
Literally pull trees, reorganize the soil, compost the soil.
Yeah.
Test the soil.
Let it be settled, then you can start planting your
Yeah.
saplings. It's.
Yes,
that's
that,
weird.
this is one of the reasons why we need to talk about phasing, right? What comes first, what
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
second,
Definitely that.
what those relative costs are, what kinds of grants are available. I know what
Yeah,
some of the
it-
kinds
yeah,
of grants
right,
are.
It does something.
If they
special.
have matching requirements, what are they so we can plan for the matching requirements?
Yeah.
Right? Will they accept volunteer hours as in kind? Some will not. You know, that,
No, some of your business.
how do you cobble it together? And you know, we are putting Grant on the spot. It is sort of more Wayne's wheelhouse, that sort of executive function in the plans. But we are definitely talking about millions of dollars
But
over
you have-
time.
But you can,
I mean,
but you can still do what you do if we concentrate more towards the building and the activity area and all of that. Keep the parking lot and still have that opening, and in between all, if we can get in what I'm visioning is if we get all the top end done, but don't finish the back as well, keep the the raised garden beds, do all that. So people are being drawn to this thing and we can use it, have some activities or whatever's going on, but still, like Terry said, we get a bunch of people, I know a few people, maybe we get a piece of equipment, Dave knows. We could go in there, go in and do like you just said, go in and clean out all the stumps, whatever. And, then you can start on planting new trees and everything, because all you do is rent the post hole, on one of the machines, you dig a hole,
To a point,
you
you've
drop-
got,
done. You can plant 10 trees in half a day.
you're
But-
going to have, in the long haul, you're gonna have the roots. You'll never pull them all out.
Well,
They're
no,
gonna
you're
throw in
going-
saplings,
yeah.
and they're gonna conflict with what you want to plant in there. You gotta kind of take that for granted, and that's
Well, the only way to
big
do that
equipment
is you
for
don't.
digging that out.
You York rake it out with that mini excavator, you just pick it up and you
Well, you-
throw it in, dig it to the transfer station, and burn it.
But
So
now,
if I could add something, I think that's why we hired, Grant and Wayne. They're gonna
Right.
give us those answers because they've done this before. And I think the way to do it, the least disruptive to the environment is gonna be important to keep it from eroding and all of those things. So it'll be great to see their, summary of those things.
Yeah.
But-
And the other thing to
And
keep
we're-
in mind is that the renovation of the
that's
building
what I wanted to
is,
ask you.
is almost certainly gonna be done before
Anything else?
any of this stuff is
And how
completed.
does heavy equipment get in there without destroying what's already been put in?
In the building?
No, once you start doing the.
Well, that's why we're talking about what the strategy is, right?
Yeah.
Going from bottom to top essentially, with the
That's-
possible exception of the stuff on the north side of the house, because it's sort of not the same traffic pattern to
Right.
to
yeah.
install. But yeah, so the facility will certainly be brought online in some fashion, even if all 3 floors aren't fully renovated, it will be able to be put in use. So there will be activity. The activity fuels the interest, which also fuels the ability to raise the funds. But realistically, we're looking at multiple years, multiple phases, multiple grants. But we also need to think about, and I know we've touched on it, what is that maintenance strategy? Everybody knows it's important. Individually, it's too big of a nut for us to crack. That's why we need the guidance of what you guys are putting together for us.
And Tara, it's Valerie.
Yep.
Here's my taking the advice to be rude. I think that in phasing this, You also need within the phase, mini phases, so that if there's an opportunity to do something small within a particular phase, you know what that mini phase logic should be.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Valerie.
For instance, that might look like starting out with the wood chip path and then, moving on to a gravel. Because a wood chip path would be much more affordable. And, again, these planting areas, what I think we're envisioning happen is, and there is, I think, grants out there that would definitely fund this as a restoration plan. This isn't necessarily all a food forest, although many of these species have edible and medicinal functions. These are all native species in here, or species that have nativized to the area. And we selected them based on a parameter such as what minerals do they fix.
Right.
These are all many species that are going to help heal the landscape. We're looking at, I don't think a bulk of the cost down here is going to be plant materials. I actually think that's maybe one of the cheaper aspects if we're planting, seedlings. Many of these could be received through, Department of Natural Resources. Maybe able to find seed mixes for the wetland area. There are grants for, I think the bulk of the expense down here is going to be the initial running the machinery to cut down trees, and then the boardwalk is going to be a big expense down here as well.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me as well. I mean, it's the engineered activity that is your highest cost. I believe I'm correct in this. The grayed out trees are existing mature trees, right?
Yep, the dark green or grayed trees, these are all existing, whereas the lighter green here, all in the middle, are proposed clear an area we're proposing to clear and replant with a more diverse mixture of species,
So it's
which are down here.
And that is essentially what we'll be doing. Yeah.
Make money off.
I have a question about access. Is there any options for any other access for the lower area through another property?
No.
Not a good one, Karen, because those are all private residences.
Okay.
The only other access that we've imagined, and it's outside Grant and Wayne's scope of work as it was described to them, is actually bridging the French River to Riverside Park, which has some appeal, but is not within the scope of this project. So, and again, this is something Steve brought up, perhaps, Grant, showing where we could have a placeholder for that kind of future activity.
Okay.
Yeah, what is it?
Because that is Riverside Park. It's just you can't get there from here right now.
Well, you'd have
What
to
you
put
wanna put
abutments
in,
or something, so you'd have to get, what
Tarzan
would it
bunny.
cost?
What?
Permit that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it's a
geez.
whole
Oh, I
different
think of-
Yeah.
project, but yes,
Yeah, yeah, it's just a bunch.
but
of-
worth having a placeholder in the plan.
Yeah.
There you go with your grapevine.
Road bridge.
Like bungee jumping.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is this going to be seasonal? In other words, if you're putting down wood chips, then if we got snow and if it's open all year, snow blowing with wood chips wouldn't work.
Just natural.
But I mean, I know my husband with dirt driveway, when you're trying to snow,
Stones.
so you'd be picking up wood, so you wouldn't be able to.
It's a woodland path. If it snows, it snows.
Right, what I meant was,
That's what I would think.
State Public access liability is limited.
So in other words, if you wanna go there, you're gonna have to walk with.
It's like
2
snow,
foot of
bring 'em
snow.
home.
That's what I
Yeah.
wanted to know, okay, cause it would
Yes.
be a nice thing to have a snowman competition, I mean, you know, that you could do a lot, but I was just curious.
It would be like being on an airline trail, they ain't up there, they're not up
Yeah,
there. plowing. If you wanna go walking, whatever,
You're
if
right.
it's 6 inches, 2 inches, you're gonna walk it.
Yeah, it's a certain amount about your own risk.
Okay, I was just curious, you know.
We're not paying any DPW guy to go down there and snow blow or shovel snow.
So this will be open year round if they want to walk through it and.
They would
Just
have
like any
longer
other public
coffee-
trail system.
Pardon?
Yep.
They would have longer coffee breaks.
What do you, I've no
The
follow.
West Thompson Lake area.
That means they
is-
stand there with
Nothing
the
is
coffee.
done,
Okay.
Yeah.
except when the trucks have to go on the roads that go. through
Yeah,
the middle
if
of it, that's it.
USACE does not have the resources to be clearing their public access paths, certainly we will not be doing that
What's that
ourselves.
again, Tara?
The Army Corps,
Yes.
yeah, they don't go with snow blowers and snow
No,
shovels on those
They-
paths.
No, they don't want
They're
the.
called snowshoes.
There you go.
Oh, thank you, yeah, and cross-country skiing, yeah, through it, well, that would.
I don't think.
They don't care
Yeah,
how
so
you
this
walk it.
site is not like West Thompson Dam. It's not as inviting to that. Seasonally, the real answer is probably very few people are down there because it would be a nuisance and
Yeah,
all
if
the
you go
pretty
like a
things would be down.
Pre-season thing.
But it wouldn't be closed
You do get
in
some
that
people
way.
that-
Now, you know, like for plants and everything, there's Killingley VOAG, and we've got kids that go there from Thompson. Even Yukon has the, what, I don't know what the department is, but there's a agricultural department, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they could, who knows,
but that
in the
would-
long run, I'm not going right now,
That
what I'm
wouldn't
saying.
Be digging out trees and things like
Pardon?
that, but that wouldn't be digging out the trees.
No, I'm talking
That
about
would be
planting, yeah.
planting and, you know, getting.
Yeah,
some
so
smaller
Grant,
flowers.
as you and Wayne are, finalizing that narrative, just, reach out to Maura and Dan and me and Jocelyn, to sort of give you that grocery list of what the local resources are in terms of
Oh, yeah.
agricultural education, what are the other nonprofits working in this area?
Girl Scouts, well, the
Yeah.
Boy Scouts really get into, they used to, that would be a good,
Well, that's if they're going after an Eagle Scout, but.
well, that's true. yeah.
Does anybody have any other comments, questions we want to toss at Grant to stay on time? Dave, you look like you do.
No,
You had that look in your eye. No?
no, good.
Okay.
That's as I've been
Yeah.
sitting here for a while, look. Yeah.
And,
We're done in the morning, so I'm not having another one.
Grant, do you have any more questions for us?
Yeah.
I just sent my email in the meeting chat if anyone, does have any more questions or more thoughts. I don't have any more questions right now, but I got a lot of good notes from this meeting. Excited to share the report with you all, because I think that'll answer a lot of questions.
This is Mara. Can I just throw out, I just want to make sure, folks knew that I actually, reached out to, Grant and Wayne on some of the guild plant lists had some invasive species. So we definitely don't want to have those in the areas where they could potentially spread. It was mugwort and, I think the valerian. So if they were to, some of them do have medicinal benefits. So I said if they were in a specific area where they could be contained, but not anything on, I don't think anything on the Connecticut invasive species plant list should really be in there, because if future funding could be from the state, I don't think that would be okay to have invasives.
And they keep that list very well updated. Yes, Maura?
SIPWIG, the Connecticut Invasive Plants Working Group, has the list, and that's where I found those. And so, just so people know if you see things on there. And I guess, as far as the guilds themselves, maybe, Grant, if you could just expand on how you guys selected those, other than I understand based on, wetland plants need to go in wetlands, that type of thing. But as far as the lists, is this everything that you expect to go in there, or is this a list where people would pick things off of?
Yeah, so this is just the initial list of all the species we would like to see in there. That are all, the whole native invasive thing. It is a little touchy from place to place, so we'll definitely run through with this list you just mentioned for Connecticut and make sure none of those plants are on this list. And that might include we did have mugwort and those things in the herb garden as well. So that might not fly either to have in the medicinal garden. But yeah,
I mean,
these
it's
plants,
easy enough
these
to
are all,
cross-check that, Grant. If Maura didn't already send you the link to that, we can get that link just to do a cross-check.
yeah, yeah, wonderful. And if anything, there would be additional plants to this list, and those would come from seed mixes, or mainly from the seeds of herbs and grasses that we might get from different restoration groups. Ernst Seeds or the DNR, they'll make they'll prepare these seed mixes that we can buy in a pack. And then if we would like to add more diversity or more multifunctional species, this is a list we could refer to and supplement that with.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
and
just wanted to clarify.
it definitely does change from state to state. Like, you can't buy ribes in Massachusetts, but you can buy them here in Connecticut, and I can walk to Massachusetts from here. So I understand what you're saying, Grant, about how some of the rules are arbitrary. But they're not 100% arbitrary, and yeah, what might be not classified invasive in Illinois certainly could be classified invasive here.
Absolutely. And it's I think it's ongoing research with a lot of these species. It's even things like dandelion. There's a lot of controversy about, is dandelion native or not. So it's really species by species, and the best thing for us is just to refer to that list provided by the state.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And lastly, I'll just we will include all these sources for seed mixes and what we can find online, these different options for plant materials.
All right, so just in the last couple of minutes, so for the next one, it would be nice if we had at least like a semi-final draft of your final deliverable report and plans, Grant, so that people could have some time to read it and digest it before the last workshop. And in that last workshop, under this unit, the permaculture unit, I would like to talk a little bit more about those strategic points. The phasing, like we're still talking about it, sort of swirling around it now, like a little more detail on what is proposed, mostly so we can wrap our heads as not just a planning group, but hopefully ultimately a working group for organizing those activities, creating a calendar, even if it's a years-long calendar of fundraising, grant pursuit, project phases, how they relate together, so that it can be handed off from year to year as people change.
Wonderful. Yep. We'll make sure we get that to you, and I'm going to share everything with Wayne. If you didn't hear everybody, Wayne couldn't make it. He came down with a little bit of a cold, so making sure I'm getting all these notes and this video, I'll share it with him, and hopefully he'll be healed up for the next meeting.
Great.
When is the next meeting?
The fourth Wednesday of March, which I believe is the 29th off the top of my head. Oh, look, I've got a calendar sitting right in front of me. I can actually tell you.
Will it be the 28th?
No, because it's a leap year.
Yes.
Oh, today's 27th.
27th.
Yeah,
27th.
Yeah,
of March.
be the same date
Right.
because it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one earlier, not one later, 27th. Okie dokie. That's a wrap, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
As
Thanks,
always,
everyone.
anybody who wants to send comments after the fact, just email them to me and I'm keeping a complete list of all comments as we go.
That was 27, 28.
Yeah, the 27th.
what she says.
27, 29.